Alright, here's your guys' final review, part 2. So, first we got a slew of problems with 30, 60, 90 and 45, 45, 90 degree triangles. So we'll take a look at number 1. So for number 1, you guys, this is a 45, 45, 90. So this is 45 degrees. Now, this is the hypotenuse. The one opposite from the 90 degrees is always the hypotenuse, or the diagonal of the triangle. And here's your guys' two legs. Now remember, the two legs are congruent to each other. So since our leg is rad 6 over 2, that means our other leg is also rad 6 over 2. So I'll make it easier for us, you guys, and I'll just say, okay, so we know this information. Now, we have to use our ratio, and I'm going to drag it over here for all of us to see. This is the ratio for 45, 45, 90. So since we have a leg, we need to know the hypotenuse length by going from leg to hypotenuse. And going from leg to hypotenuse, we multiply by the square root of 2. So on the side, rad 6 over 2 times rad 2. Rad 2 times rad 6, you guys, is square root of 12 over 2. But we can simplify the square root of 12. And if you guys forgot, you do your prime factorization tree. So rad 12, you guys, becomes the pair of 2's goes on the outside, and we have a leftover of 3 divided by 2. And 2 divided by 2, you guys, is square root of 3. So this is going to be the square root of 3, you guys, for x. So which option is that? That certainly looks like to be B. Okay, number 2. Okay, number 2 is a 30, 60, 90. So there's our ratio for 30, 60, 90. That is 30 degrees. So we definitely have 8 right there. Now, let's label our short leg, long leg, and hypotenuse. Well, this is the hypotenuse, opposite of the 90 degrees, or the diagonal of the triangle. Since this angle is smaller, that means the side opposite to it is the short leg. And since this angle is bigger than 30, that means this one's going to be the long leg. So we have the long leg, you guys. Now we got to go from long leg to short leg. And long leg to short leg, you guys, if we look at our ratios list, we got to divide by square root of 3. So I'm going to do it right here. 8 divided by the square root of 3. Now remember, you can't have a square root in the denominator. So multiply top and bottom by the square root of 3. 8 square root of 3. Square root of 3 times square root of 3, you guys. Square root times itself will give you the number on the inside. So square root of 3 times square root of 3, you guys, will just give you 3. So we know that y is 8 square root of 3 divided by 3. So now, to go from short leg to hypotenuse, you guys, look at our ratios list. We got to multiply by 2. So 8 square root of 3 over 3, you guys, times 2. You just multiply to the numerator. So 2 times 8, you guys, is 16, and we keep the square root of 3 over 3. And your guys' answer would be, so x is 16 square root of 3, and so we have A. Okay, so this next one is also going to be a 30, 60, 90, so we got to use our ratio. So this is 30, let's label. So side opposite of the smaller angle is the short leg. Side opposite of the bigger angle is the long leg. And this is the hypotenuse. So, we know our long leg. So long leg to short leg, you guys, is divided by square root of 3. So 2 square root of 3 divided by square root of 3. Now, fortunately for us, you guys, notice they both have square roots of 3's, right? So normally you guys would multiply top and bottom by square root of 3, but because we don't need to because we could just cancel these. So that's just going to be 2. So the short leg is 2. Now to go from short leg to hypotenuse, you guys, you multiply by 2. And it says it right there, right? So 2 times 2, you guys, is 4. So our answer is going to be 2 and 4. So V is 2 and U is 4. So that's B. Number 4. Alright, 45, 45, 90. So remember, both of these are legs, and they're both equal to each other because both of these angle measurements are equal. And this one, you guys, is the hypotenuse. Alright, so we have hypotenuse, which means we need to go from hypotenuse to a leg. And hypotenuse to a leg, you guys, is dividing it by square root of 2. So 5 square root of 2, you guys, divided by square root of 2. Notice these cancel, so then all we're left with is 5. So this leg is 5, you guys, which also means the other leg is also 5. 5 and 5, which is D. Alright, number 5. Have another 30, 60, 90. So this is 30. Side opposite of the smaller angle is the short leg. Side opposite of the bigger angle, long leg, and the one that's opposite of the 90 degrees is hypotenuse. So we have hypotenuse, so we gotta go from hypotenuse to short leg, which is divide by 2. It says it right there, right? Hypotenuse to short leg, divide by 2. 4 divided by 2, you guys, is 2. So short leg is 2. Now to go from short leg to long leg, you guys, so look at your ratios list. Short leg to long leg, multiply by the square root of 3. So 2 times square root of 3, you guys, is 2 radical 3. Can't multiply these together because remember, a square root times a square root, then you can multiply the inside of square roots, but since this is a 2 and that's a square root of 3, you guys cannot combine those. So 2 square root of 3. So A is 2 square root of 3 and B is 2, so that's letter A. And number 6. So number 6, you guys, we have a 30, 60, 90. So opposite of the 30 is the short leg, because it's smaller. Opposite of the bigger angle, 60, is the long leg. And the hypotenuse is the diagonal of the triangle or the one opposite of the 90. Okay, so we have short leg. So we need to go from short leg to long leg. So short leg to long leg, you guys, is divide by square root of 3. So 9 over 2. We're going to divide it by the square root of 3. So this is a unique problem because we have a square root of 3, so we need to multiply top and bottom by the square root of 3. 9 square root of 3. So remember, square root of 3 times square root of 3, you guys, is 3. So 2 times 3. 9 square root of 3, 2 times 3, you guys, is 6, and you guys can simplify by dividing top and bottom by 3. So 9 divided by 3 is 3. We still keep the square root of 3, and 6 divided by 3 is 2. The only thing is, I don't see an option for that. So, did I miss something? Oh, I'm sorry, you guys. Scratch that. Which is why you should look at actually your ratios. Short leg to long leg is multiplied by square root of 3. So 9 over 2 times square root of 3, you guys. Just multiply to the numerator, which is 9 square root of 3 over 2. Sorry. But as you guys can see, since I didn't see that option on the test, on the multiple choice, that gives you an indication, hey, you did something wrong, right? So now we're going to do short leg to hypotenuse, you guys, and short leg to hypotenuse is multiplying it by 2. 9 over 2 times 2, you guys. 9 times 2 is 18 divided by 2. 18 divided by 2 is 9. So x is 9 and y is 9 square root of 3 over 2, which is b. Alrighty. Alright, so these are finding your guys' indicated angles, and you're doing it to the nearest degree. So nearest degree. So ka toa. So remember, in the perspective of this angle, right? So in the perspective of this angle, this side is adjacent because it's next to it. This side is the hypotenuse because it's opposite of the 90, and it's the diagonal of the triangle. And this side is opposite. What information are we using? We're using A and we're using H. So which trig identity uses A and H? That is this one, which is cosine. So I'm just going to label this x, you guys. Cosine of x is equal to adjacent, which is 20, over hypotenuse, which is 55. Now, since we're solving for an angle measurement, that means in order to get rid of the cosine, you guys, we gotta take cosine inverse of both sides. That is how you guys find an angle measurement. So those cancel. X is equal to cosine inverse of 20 over 55. And using your guys' calculator, 20 divided by 55, you're going to get x is roughly, rounded to the nearest whole degree, it's 69 degrees, which is D. Now, let me see if this works. Now, if you guys want to use the Google calculator in order to practice, you guys will have your own calculator because you guys will have Delta Math. But if you guys would like to use the Google calculator, first of all, make sure you guys, it says DEG. I'm going to, right here, do you guys see that? It's highlighting RAD. You got to make sure it highlights DEG. So click that if you want to use the Google calculator, but on the final, you guys will be using the Delta Math one. So in order to do cosine inverse, you guys do inverse, you hit the I and V, so I and V, so cosine inverse, and then you guys just do 20 divided by 55 equals, and there you guys go. So you guys can certainly use this calculator for your guys' homework assignment, the Google one, but for your final, it will be on Delta Math. So nearest whole, you guys, round it 8, so 6 tells you to bump it up, so it'd be 69. But I will be referring back to that again. Alright, so number 8. So in the perspective of this angle, so remember this is going to be our x value. So again, this side is the adjacent, this side is opposite, and this side is the hypotenuse. So they're using information at A and H, so that means in SOHCAHTOA, A and H is ka. So we're going to be using cosine, because cosine of x is equal to adjacent, which is 28, over hypotenuse, which is 60. So we're going to do the cosine inverse of both sides. Cancel. So x is going to equal to cosine inverse of 28 over 60. Okay, cosine inverse of 28 over 60. So go back to the Google calculator, you guys. So remember, make sure that this says degree. Make sure it's highlighted degree. If you guys highlight radians, it's not going to be correct. Highlight degree by just clicking DEG. Inverse, cosine inverse of 28 divided by 60. Round it to the nearest degree for this problem, and it's going to be 62. So this, you guys, is 62 degrees, which is D. Alright, number 9. In the perspective of this angle measurement, you guys, which is x, this side opposite is opposite, and this side next to it is the adjacent. Then, if you guys want to, opposite of the 90's hypotenuse. So you guys know to use O and A, and in SOHCAHTOA, the only one that uses O and A, opposite side adjacent, is TOA. So we're going to be using tan. Tan of x is equal to opposite, which is 6, over adjacent, which is 5. So in order to solve for x, we gotta take the tan inverse of both sides. These cancel. So x is gonna be tan inverse of 6 over 5. So tan inverse of 6 over 5, you guys. So we're gonna go to our calculator. Make sure that this is highlighting degrees, right? It's highlighting degrees. You hit inverse, tan, and I kind of forgot what we had. It was 6 divided by 5 equals 50.19. Round it to the nearest degree, which is 50 degrees. And that is B. Okay. Alright, so now you guys are trying to find side lengths. So I'm going to write our good old SOHCAHTOA up top. Okay, so here's the angle measurement, right? So in the perspective of this angle measurement, this side would be the opposite side furthest from the angle. This is hypotenuse, and the side next to it would be adjacent. So information at O and A, so the one that uses O and A is T for tangent. So tan of 66 is equal to opposite, which is x, over adjacent, which is 20. Put that over 1. We're going to cross multiply. X is equal to 20 tan of 66. Put this in your guys' calculator. So tan, no, what was it? It was 20 tan of 66. Yep, and round it, it says round it to the nearest tenth, so we got 44.92. 44.92. Oh, that's a... Round it to the nearest tenth, so the 2, do we stay or go up? We stay. So our answer is going to be 44.9, which is D. 11. In the perspective of this angle, this side is the opposite, furthest from the angle measurement. This side is adjacent, and this side is the hypotenuse. Hypotenuse is the opposite of the 90. So information at H and A. So H and A, you guys, is cosine. So cosine of 41 is equal to adjacent over hypotenuse. Put that over 1. Cross multiply. X is equal to 41 cosine of 41. So in your guys' calculator, 41 cosine of 41, that is 30.94. Oh, I put 41, you guys. Sorry. This should have been... So, as you guys can see, this is a good learning because if you guys look, none of my answers are 30.94. So this is an indication to me I made a mistake. And what mistake did I make? The hypotenuse side should have been 13. X is equal to 13 cosine 41. Much better. So x is roughly what? Go back to my calculator. 13 cosine of 41. 9.81. 9.81, round it to the nearest tenth. So does that tell us to stay or to go up? Tells us to stay. So we're going to get x is roughly 9.8, which is A. Okay, number 12. Okay, so we have this angle measurement. Opposite, adjacent, hypotenuse. So we're going to be using A and H. So that's cosine, you guys. So cosine of 17 is equal to adjacent over hypotenuse. Cross multiply. So we got x cosine of 17 is equal to 17. Divide both sides by cosine 17 so that we can isolate our x. X is equal to 17 cosine of 17. And x is roughly, now 17 divided by cosine 17, so using your guys' calculator. 17 divided by cosine 17. 17.77. Round it to the nearest tenth, so does that tell us to go up or stay? It tells us to round up. So x is roughly 17.8, which is D. Okay, it's 13 and 14, you guys. So this is the one we did in class. Now we need to get this, but we don't have enough information, so we're gonna denote this as y, and we're going to use this triangle, you guys, to help us to find y, because if we know y, then we can use this triangle to solve for x, knowing y. So in the perspective, I'm going to use red on this side. In the perspective of this angle, this side is the opposite and this side's the adjacent, right? So remember SOHCAHTOA? We are going to be using tangent because we know information at O and A. So tan of 68 is equal to opposite, which is 16, over adjacent, which is y. Put that over 1, and we're going to cross multiply. Y tan of 68 is equal to 16. We're going to divide both sides by tan of 68. These cancel. So y is going to equal to 16 tan 68. So in your guys' calculator, and it says round to the nearest tenth. 16 divided by tan of 68, 6.46. But we're rounding to the nearest tenth, so this 6 tells us to round up, so y is 6.5 around. And I'm going to move this down here. Okay, so we know that this side length, you guys, is 6.5 now, right? I'll use a different color. I'll use blue. Not blue. I'll just use black. So this side length now, you guys, is 6.5. So in the perspective of this angle, right, this side is opposite and this side is adjacent. So we're going to be using tangent again. Tan of 46 is equal to opposite, which is x, over adjacent, which is 6.5. Put this over 1. I'm going to cross multiply. X is equal to 6.5 times tan of 46. So x is roughly 6.5 times tan of 46. 6.73. Round it to the nearest tenth, so this 3 tells us to stay, so x is roughly 6.7, which is C. Whew, big problem. Alright, here's another one. So we gotta find information more about this triangle, so we're gonna denote this as y. So we're gonna use this triangle to help us solve for y, and then once we know y, we can use the y to help us solve for x. So in the perspective of this angle, this side is the opposite, and this side is the hypotenuse, right? So that is using sine. Sine of 65 is equal to opposite, which is y, over hypotenuse, which is 39. Put that over 1. So y is equal to 39 cosine of 65. Put that in your guys' calculator. 39 sine of, my gosh, my memory is so bad. 39, and I wrote cosine by mistake. 39 sine of 65. So 39 sine of 65, 35.34. Round it to the nearest tenth, so this 4 tells us to stay. So y is roughly 35.3. Gonna write it in black. So this is now 35.3, you guys. So in the perspective of this angle, this side is the adjacent and this side is the hypotenuse, which is using cosine. Cosine of 54 is equal to adjacent over hypotenuse. Cross multiply. X cosine of 54 is equal to 35.3. Divide both sides by cosine of 54. Cancels. So x is going to equal to 35.3 divided by cosine of 54. So it is 35.3 divided by cosine of 54. 60.05. So x is roughly 60.05. This is the 10th. This 5 tells us to round up. So we're going to have x is roughly 60.1, which is A. And lastly, here are your guys' volume. So just remember, for volume, you guys, for rectangular prism, it's base times the area of the base times the height, which is the length times the width times the height. So length times the width, you guys, it's 4 times 4 times 7, which would give you guys 112 kilometers cubed, which is B. 16, area of a pyramid, you guys, 1/3 length times width times height, or square pyramid or rectangular pyramid. So 1/3 times 6 times 6 times 5. Put that in your guys' calculator. That's going to be 60 yards cubed, which is D. For 17, area of a volume cylinder, you guys, is area of the base times the height. The area of the base is a circle, so pi r squared h. Now remember, radius is half the diameter. That is the diameter, you guys, so your radius is actually 7. It's half of that. So pi times 7 squared times 6. Multiply all that together. Pi times 7 squared times 6. And that should give you guys, rounded to the nearest tenth, 923.6 feet cubed, which is C. And then 18, you guys, volume is 1/3 pi r squared 8. That's the diameter. So the radius is half of the diameter, which is 2. 1/3 times pi times 2 squared, you guys, times 5. And that should give you guys 20.9 miles cubed, which is C. So, good luck, you guys, and come to my tutoring sessions if you guys do need the assistance, okay? Good luck, you guys. Peace.